All right, welcome to another Friday night episode of Keto Rocks Radio. I'm Jim Hobbs, and on the screen is my carnivore co-host, fresh back from a Caribbean cruise on the Monster Rock, holding down double duty with both playing guitar for Rhino Bucket, Kix, and whoever else he joined and jammed with. But welcome back to shore, Brian.
Yes, it's good to be back. My cat is very happy.
I saw Smokey. I'm sure Smokey greeted you with quite the affection welcome to both you and Shannon returning back through those doors.
Yes, she is not, well, she's not here right now, but she's basically not left my side since I got back home.
Well, and she's gonna stick to you like glue to make sure you don't leave her alone again. So it's gonna be tough when you leave. It's gonna be tough when you leave this weekend.
Yeah, but Shannon's staying here, so it's only one of us going.
Okay, all right. Well, then she'll survive anyway. Well, hey, I want to thank for everybody who watched last week's episode with Billy Willis. Billy was sharing, what he's going through, and not, on this show we're trying to give you what's real, because we know not everybody's able to stick to the plan. And part of the plan and part of the journey is going through that phase multiple times until you get there and go, I want to stick to the plan. And so when you have guests on like Billy Willis, who's sharing you where he's at now and where he wants to be 2 years down the road, and he's open enough and humble enough to be transparent in his journey, it helps all of you all who are out there. It helps myself. I need to speak that for myself. It helps you all to realize you are not alone as you go through this journey. And we are welcoming back Carrie Husband back with us, because I think she's going to follow back and do the same thing Billy did. She's going to kind of share her journey, and we all fall off track for whatever reason. And I fall off track is probably a bad term to be using. We just don't get it. Our groove that we were in our groove. We kind of get off the groove and we got to get back and find our sound. Just like hopefully Brian can find his way back on the show. But anyway, welcome.
Connection.
Welcome back, Carrie. Good to have you back.
Thank you for inviting me back. And yes, I am here to talk about my journey. And I thank you for making this a safe place for me to do that. Because I think that accountability is a huge key for those who have goals that are setting forth, because only 2 to 5% of the population are self-starters. Those are those people that are going to, partake in something and get her done. The rest of us need a little bit something extra. And so on this end of it, being accountable, since you had asked me to, hey, let's have you come on once a month and tell us about your journey. I thought this is also a great place for me to hold myself accountable as to why I'm doing this and sharing it and being transparent, because this journey is not easy. And if anybody says that it is easy, they haven't been doing it long enough. Because it's not, it's painstaking. But yet when you can get into that groove and find the benefits of it and remind yourself of that when the outside pressures start coming in, then it's much easier to stick to it.
Absolutely. And so, groove, it should be lane, I guess is the right terminology. It's the lane. Once you find yourself in the fast lane and there's nobody in front of you, you can go and you are able to see those results. But when you stop off at an exit and you get distracted by a red and yellow sign or someone peddling you something else, and it's okay. It's part of the journey. You get a chance to experience what you came here to experience. But at some point when you look in the mirror, you realize what's being manifested is not the results that you started down this path, and there's something more out there for you. And I really think that's why I get excited when people like Billy get on the show, or Carrie's willing to share, or Brian, or anyone else that comes on and shares their journeys, because it shows you that we're all very similar in our journeys. We all have setbacks. We all get distracted from one thing or another, but we know deep down, we know there's something greater for us that we want to obtain and we want to maximize. And so that's the beauty of living out our lives and sharing our lives with one another and being encouragers, not discouragers, with other people. So Carrie, thanks for coming on, because your story encourages me. Hope it encourages other people as well. And the fact that you're humble enough to be transparent and share this journey, I think a lot of people will gain wisdom and be encouraged by what you're going to share in this.
I hope so.
Yeah, I believe they will.
You know, otherwise, why am I sharing?
Yeah.
I don't need to hear myself self-talk. I talk to myself all the time.
As long as you like yourself, as long as you love yourself, you're a great person to talk to. But so kind of tell people what got you back on this journey of focus.
Depression. And that's a hard one. And in the spirit of transparency, you might see a couple tears today. So I don't expect anybody to cry with me. And I do apologize if my tears make people uncomfortable, but they are what they are. And I've embraced them fully, because that's just how I express myself, and moving through the shadow work that has kind of presented itself in getting back on in my lane. But I was dealing with some severe depression. There were things in my life that were not the way I wanted them to be. And it's interesting because in the last 5 years of my life, I've taken a really hard dive into spirituality. Anybody that has seen me on your show before knows that my heart is the Hebrew and Aramaic language. And I have dove straight into it with all of my time, all of my energy, all of my resources. But unfortunately, when I started doing that, I allowed other things to slip up. I used to be a fitness professional where I taught high intensity interval training classes. I led boot camp classes with my husband, and we developed a program that we called ACTS Fitness Redefined. And it was a leadership program that was dealing with body, soul, mind, spirit, the whole thing. And, back then it was a level of accountability to hold myself to a standard of what I was presenting, of what our program did. When that ended and I focused more on the spirituality side of it, I left the physical component out of it. And the more time I would spend on the internet, the researching, the building teachings, opening up a YouTube channel, Facebook page, everything became this little screen sitting on my lap. And I found myself sitting on my arse way too much. And because I wasn't getting out and moving, and I wasn't taking care of my physical self, things started slipping and things started not going the way I wanted it to be. And, the first 10 pounds come on and you can go, okay, well, it's just 10 pounds, right? And then the 20 pounds come on and you're like, maybe I need to start being concerned here. When you get up to 50 pounds, then the heart of desperation sets in, because at that point, everything becomes hard. Everything becomes hard. 10 to 20 pounds, you can kind of move around and you can do some things. You're like, yeah, it's a little bit more difficult than it can be. But when you start getting up to 50 pounds and your joints start hurting and you lose that ability, the endurance that you had and the strength, and you have trouble opening jar lids or picking up, we have a pellet stove. And so if I'm filling the pellets and my husband isn't around and I'm doing it, having trouble lifting those pellet bags when they were nothing before, and I could probably sling 2 over my shoulder because I was so strong and fit, and see all of that go away and realize that when you get to that place of the crossroads, you have a choice. And it's a hard one. That's why I said there's shadow work that's involved with this too, because when you get to that crossroads, you're looking at it and you can go, I can keep doing more of the same, and my health and my wellness is being sacrificed and I'm getting more depressed. Or I can grab a hold of myself and shake myself up and stir myself up and say, something has got to change. Something has got to give. And so, I had a crisis moment, and I had to back off from my YouTube channel. I had to stop responding to all of my comments. I had to stop feeling like I had to put out all of this information for people on the sacred languages. Like I'm trying to save the world, that if the world has the sacred languages, it'd all be a happy place and we would have unity. Will it help? Of course it will, but it's not my job to save the world. My responsibility is to myself and this vessel that was given to me to steward, and to bring balance in all of those aspects instead of leaving one out of the equation. All 3 areas have to come together in balance. And, that's a hard thing to face. And I was at that moment. And that was 2 weeks ago. That was 14 days ago.
Well, I think a lot of people can relate to your story. I can definitely relate to your story because Peggy and I went through that journey many times, and you're exactly correct on how we felt. 10 pounds, you're like, yeah, okay. Then 20, and then it gets to a point where you're like, what am I doing? And then you really have to look in the mirror and realize that you have become an addict to the food that is literally destroying you. So the fact that you're now becoming an addict by your behavior or what you're consuming is literally coming to destroy you, coming to take away what you have inside of you, which is health. And you have to be honest with yourself. And it's not easy because we all go through this. I'm sure Brian can relate to it, and everybody else that's listening to this probably can one way or the other relate to what you're conveying and what you're sharing. But it is a scary moment because because we are creatures of habit, and we get into those bad habits no matter how slight each day changes. And like you were saying, behind the computer, this is what I'm doing. And so your focus becomes on, listen, I'm saving the world. The world be better if I can just get this message out there of them learning the Aramaic language and what was really being said. And if they could understand this love language, then we all could love one another and life would be great. But anything that totally has you going down one path, and leaving your children behind, your other children behind you to go after the one, you gotta just kind of take a pause, a deep breath, and say, well, wait a minute, I've left everybody else over here. I can't leave anyone, including myself. And so you then have to say, all right. And then you almost have to set up boundaries for yourself, boundaries that you can live with.
Exactly.
And that's what Peggy and I had to do. We had to, as a matter of fact, we were just having this conversation the other day. She was talking. She's like, you can't be telling people to go hard keto or carnivore and 1 meal a day and all that. She goes, you got to remember, this is a journey. And even the first step of just eliminating sugar, even if you just eliminated 50%, you're at least moving in the right direction. If you can eliminate get sugar out of your system, and then start eliminating processed food. And she made a good point because she doesn't know anyone, and I'm with her in this viewpoint. Once you start eliminating and you start going down this path of maximizing your immune system or maximizing your health, you create, there's energy in you that wants to know more, wants to be more. And that journey by itself takes on a journey of itself. And you start to go, wait a minute, what else can I do? What else am I missing out on that I wasn't doing? Whether it's, fasting, intermittent. There's so many other different things that we want to go out and seek to incorporate into our life. That's to our benefit. But when we're just so fixated on one thing, we don't even contemplate those other roads that we could be taking. And so I think if someone's watching this for the first time, and if you've been considering, well, you know what, I've been considering going keto, the first step is just eliminate the sugars. Just try to get away with the sugars, and then eliminate the stuff that converts to sugar, like the breads.
Right.
And then when you start to do that, it's amazing the chemical interaction, I guess, that takes place in your physiology and your mind and your brain. You literally start to feel better. You start to think clearer, and you start to want to, like I said, what else can I be doing? And right. I think it takes on a journey by itself. So enough.
It's interesting. It's interesting that you brought that up because, in a lot of esoteric teaching, a lot of the mystery schools, if you want to use that. And I know that if you have more of a Christian toned audience, they might be turned off by me using that term. But really, esoteric just means hidden teachings, meaning they're held away from just the general public view. mystery schools initially, not before they got tainted, not before they got twisted in this inverted matrix system that we're living in this perverted duality system. But when these teachings were pure, the essence was pure, they would go through what's called an initiation process. And to become an initiate, to get into the mystery element of that which was being taught, there was always some sort of external discipline applied. Some sort of movement, getting what we would call temple, getting the temple clean, ordered of eating and breathing and discipline before those hidden teachings were revealed to people. And there's a reason for that. It was exactly what you just said. When you get your temple in order and it begins to function properly the way it was intended to, you wake up. There's something that drives you and goes, oh my gosh, I've been missing this. What else do I need? What else have I been missing? And it literally gives you the fuel to go and seek, to bring a resolve, because we innately know that something's missing. We just know that innately we do. Many of us that are seeking truth, we know that there's something missing. And that first element is temple care. It absolutely 100% is. And when I first started my journey, because this is not my first rodeo, guys. This is not the first time I put on weight. This is the heaviest I've ever been. But the last time I went through this, I was 40 pounds overweight. So I just kind of overshot that mark and put on an extra 10 pounds. But when I first started it, I was amazed at how much it propelled me spiritually. Like, I did temple care. I got my eating in order. I did everything. Now, of course, I wasn't doing it via keto. The first time I did it was the 6 small meals a day with high intensity interval training and, looking at my calories and all that kind of stuff. And it was very effective. I don't think it was sustainable, but it was very effective. But it brought me into insulin resistance, which is the whole reason why I started keto, and to get inflammation out of my body. But it propels you. And so anybody that is seeking a spiritual journey, if they do not have a wellness component with it, they are never going to be able to be where they want to be, that they know innately is something out there, because it is all meant to work together. We're a triune being, right? We're body, soul, aka spirit, and mind. We're a triune being. All 3 of them have to be addressed if you want to get where you want to go to maximize and have life abundantly. That's really, one cannot lack. So I know that you probably have stuff that you want to add to that, but this is huge. And there was a few things that I did want to share that were huge when I re-entered into this journey of things that I had to look at. But if there's something that you want to add to what I just shared, I don't want to just be taking the whole time talking.
No. And Brian, jump in here.
Yeah,
I know your
please.
connection's a little bit sketchy, but feel free to jump in and share your thoughts or questions. But Gandhi had said this before, that happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony, which is the mind, body, and soul.
It is.
And I was having a deep discussion with a good friend of mine, I consider him a brother, this morning. And, you said something very interesting, Carrie. We innately know there's something more inside. We know that. So we're seeking that. And unfortunately, at least in this country, we get thrown into a school where we get programmed 8 hours a day. Yeah. We go to a building on Sunday where we get programmed for an hour to 3 hours a day. And if you're Baptist, 6 hours. So the reality of it is, we are constantly letting the world program us, when in reality, we innately know that's where you get a chance to go from glory to glory, and higher self, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call that's going to lead you into all truths. And I think that's what happens when you're able to break away from being programmed and you're truly to be seeking for yourself. Right. Those things that you seek, you will find.
Right.
And
if you seek for them with all of your heart.
Right. And so when all of a sudden, like, everybody knows Brian's story of no longer wanting to go to jail, do the drugs, you seek, well, what can I do? And Brian, you chime in here with your story, because I don't want to be speaking on your behalf.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it all, it all relates. I see my internet connection is unstable. I keep getting that little message. Um, but yeah, as far as like, um, that's what it was. I think that whole time I was doing the drugs and drinking, there was something missing, and I was trying to fill it from the outside instead of from the inside, where that's the only place you can fill it.
That's right.
And yeah, so it's like yeah, I got to that same crossroads,
Mhm.
with that deal, and I had to make a choice. And the cool thing, like for me, well, even with the food, uh, I don't have to do it alone, which is the cool part. It's me being willing to ask for help and seek that help. And um, you know, well, this journey with the food, I've found to keep up on like the education of it. That keeps me in line. Like as soon as I sort of slack on that part of it, I forget why I'm doing it or what the true benefits really are. So I have to keep up on all that stuff to be able to sustain it.
Exactly. So that kind of hits the nail on the head about being teachable and humble, because this journey is what I'm finding is that it is that humble position that will continue to propel you forward, because you're choosing to be teachable and not stagnant, because it's the stagnation that breeds stagnation. Living water is moving water. It's never at a standstill. And so when you're bringing more information in to understand how the body works, how the different hormones are being released, figuring out when is the best time to eat, and when should we allow our body to rest, so that we can honor our vessels, because that's really what we're doing. Is when we honor our vessels, we automatically honor another. If you treat your body like crap, you're obviously going to be treating other people like crap, because that's how you see yourself. And so this really is from the inside out. That's the way I see it. And for me, I had to ask myself the really hard, honest question: why? Why am I doing this? So the initial gut punch reaction for me is because I'm fat and I don't like how I look when I'm naked. Okay, that was my gut, my knee jerk. And then I had to sit with that for a moment, because I went, that's all ego. I am not this vessel. This vessel is what holds my spirit, the soul essence of who I am. This is what I get to navigate life with, which is such a beautiful gift, right? But it's not who I am. So if I'm basing that on looking good, then I'm missing the whole point, because it should be seeking health and wellness first, getting healthy to lose weight, right? If we're seeking health, if we're seeking wellness first, then the natural outflow of that is weight loss. But if you're not healthy, you're not going to lose weight. So there's things that have to be addressed first, like insulin resistance. If you're dealing with insulin resistance, then get that in line first, because if you don't, it's going to sabotage you trying to lose weight. So the mindset had to be completely changed on me, and I had to come from my space of my heart, not the external eyes. What is my heart telling me? I am not disciplined. And discipline is not a bad word. Discipline means I am being an ordered vessel that is producing my own energy instead of living in chaos, which is entropy. So it's literally shifting the whole mindset as to why I was entering it.
Well, you bring up
Realizing,
Carrie, something that's popped in my head is a great analogy is when a vineyard, when the grapevines are
yeah,
growing,
yeah,
they literally cut the vines back so
they do.
that energy only flows through the core and keeps two, not more than two. And that energy, so the energy focuses on producing strong, ripe fruit. And so when we're constantly not pruning ourselves,
Right.
us not pruning ourselves, look, the world says, do what you want. You only live once. No, you live forever. The reality of it is, how do you want to go through that eternity? How do you want to go through that eternity? And you said something else that really struck a chord with me, in the fact that, if we're doing it for ego reasons, if I'm looking in the mirror going, man, I look good, this is why I'm doing it, then I'm not doing it for the right reasons. If I do it because I know this is what's for my best health, which allows me to be the best I can be for other people around me. So I can love my neighbor, if you want to put it that way. I can't love my neighbor if I'm loving myself through the eyes of my ego. I can't, then that's how I'm going to look at the world. I'm going to look at it from the outside. And because I'm carrying that attitude, people are going to see me for that reason as well. And I'm not going to be approachable because they think that's the reason why I'm doing it. But with a humble heart and doing it for the right reason, and when we share our journey, that's the beautiful thing about sharing. When we share our journey, we actually start to see the commonality that we have with our fellow brothers and sisters, and we can build from that common ground, as opposed to always pointing fingers at what they're doing, and why you should be doing that. Confrontational as opposed to invitational.
Right. Well, here's the deal. It's our experience that we share. We never tell anybody to do anything because that's force. When you wanted to have power and you want to be able to influence people, then just share your experiences. Never tell, but just say, hey, this is, if you're interested, I'd love to share my experience with you. And if it's benefit is something you benefit, great. But I'm never going to tell you that you have to do this. It's like, you know, for us, the three of us here on the screen right now as we're chatting, I am a keto person that brings in veggies. Here's my kale shake. You know, I've got my protein, fats, and carbohydrates, and you guys are carnivore, but we're still keto. But we're unique in our expression of how we are treating our vessel and what works for us. I need to have some vegetables in my life, you know, so I make sure that I got my protein and my fats with my kale in a meal. So I'm having greens. So it's a little bit different expression in its unique fashion and form, but yet we're the same common goal is health and wellness, and every vessel is going to be different. So we can't tell people exactly how to do it because we need to listen to our body. That is part of the spiritual journey, because really we should be approaching food through a spiritual mindset.
Nope,
right?
Totally agree with you.
And let me share this word holy with you. I'm not going to bring in the Hebrew and Aramaic. I just want to share with you what through etymology, what the word holy means. When you trace it all the way back, it means to be whole or healed, not needing repair, like back in its wholeness state. That is actually the etymology of the word holy. So to be healed as uninjured, back in its holy state. If we began treating food in that fashion and looking at it and putting our intent in our food, that this is bringing wholeness and healing to my body as if it was never injured, we would change the way that we address ourselves with our food by that which we bring in for sustenance to make this vessel run. If we treat food as a holy matter to us and not just some casual, I'm going to stop at McDonald's for hamburgers, fries, and a milkshake. That's not holy. That doesn't bring wholeness and healing to the body. We could actually take what we're doing in a keto lifestyle, and as the phrase in the Bible says, be holy as I am holy, be healed, be whole as I am whole. So the phrase I am, everybody likes to throw that cliche around. I am already comes from a place of being whole, healed, and not injured. It's a place of stability. It's a place of continuity, ever expanding in the spiritual growth and maturation, which really food is that bottom of that pyramid to step our way up into holiness, as healed, as whole, as free from injury, free from dis-ease. If we don't address that and we don't address it from that spiritual heart level, and I'm not talking from the mind, anything that we approach from the mind is going to fail. It's not sustainable because ego will get in the way. So the why is, it has to be established from here. Why am I doing this? Because I'm seeking wholeness. I'm seeking balance. I'm seeking resolve. Because these areas, if we don't bring them into balance, something is going to suffer. And generally, how does that suffer? Externally, our relationships. That's what usually suffers.
It's funny, I had this conversation with the same person I was talking about earlier, and talking about whole just triggered that. So we are born whole. We are,
Yep,
we are born perfect. We are born without disease. We are,
Yep.
we are born, as you say, wholly healed, not needing repair. And this is my experience. I'll share this today because I feel led to do so. As I was back to the programming that we receive. So we start out whole, but we give our power away in all these different areas of life. And so by the time we hit middle age or in our 40s, we have given away the majority of our power. And in the latter years, we're seeking, how do we put our pieces of the, how do we get those, how do we put ourselves back together again?
That's right.
We're like Humpty Dumpty, like we've broken, we've fallen. How do we get these pieces back together? And we start by looking in the mirror and going, man, where did I go? I'm missing half of myself. And then you start to seek, well, where did I put that? And you put it over here, you put it over there. And talking about, as far as food is just one segment of that giveaway. But when you're giving your health away to something that's going to destroy you, then you're literally giving your power away. Exactly. Instead of empowering yourself when you know the right things to be consuming to be able to regain that wholeness of which you are.
That's right.
So, but you have to be, you have to, we each have to come to that point where we look in that mirror, and I've been there too. 50 pounds. I mean, I was 100 pounds. So I look in the mirror or get on the scale and go, oh, what happened? And well,
and like I do, the hardest part is just starting. Really.
Yeah.
I'm 2 weeks in, and it really takes on average 3 weeks to make a habit or break a habit. So I'm within this 3-week window of reestablishing all of these things. And in the process of it, all of these shadows are coming up that I'm having to deal with. And here's that other part of it, that the ugly, if you want to say ugly, but I still see it as beautiful. This is the ugly part of having to do this journey. And again, it's a choice. I say having to, but for me, I had already resolved it. This is what I was going to have to do at that crossroad. More of the same and getting worse, or making a change. So the have to part for me was have to get it within the heart, why I'm doing this, and I have to address every single shadow that comes up in the process. Every single shadow, because many times people will use food or drugs or alcohol. And I will admit, I was bringing alcohol in too. And you already know that alcohol on a keto diet does not work. Even if you're trying to drink drinks that are keto friendly because they have no sugar, alcohol is a toxin in your body. And if it's being processed through the liver, that's where we're dealing with the fat as well. And so the body is going to have to eliminate the alcohol first before it can deal with the fat in the bloodstream. And so what will it do? It'll put the fat back in. He's like, you're releasing fat, but I got toxins, I got alcohol, I got to deal with that first. So fat, you go back in. It's just a vicious cycle. And so unless we deal with the shadows, we're going to keep in that vicious cycle, and we're going to keep going over and over and around that mountain with weight loss, weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, and beating ourselves up the entire time because we can't find something that's sustainable. The only way it's going to be sustainable is to deal with the shadow. So can I share a couple shadows that I've had to deal with recently?
Please.
Okay, first shadow, the scale. The freaking scale. You can tell I'm still working through it by how I just said that. For me, the scale was something I would beat myself up with. Now, it can also be something that you can get addicted to. And so I'm letting you guys know that I'm making a commitment to you. I'm publicly declaring it's already in our house. I'm only weighing myself once a week. Once a week. What was happening before is I would get on the scale every day to see where my weight was. How silly is that? Because if you have had a bowel movement or not, that's going to make a difference. If you had a lot of water or not, that's going to make a lot of difference. If you are a female and there's your cycle you're dealing with, you're going to have extra weight that you're dealing with anyway because of hormones. That was the stupidest thing. Now I'm pointing all the fingers back at me and I'm judging myself and I know it, but I'm loving myself through it because this is how I have to do my shadow work. I was making that a priority, and I was basing my own value of what I was doing by what that number would say every single morning. And then that would dictate to me the rest of my day. I would either be in a good mood or I'd be in a really ticked off mood based on what that number said. And you know what? Here's the deal. The scale is a measurement of truth. Truth it has no bias. It's just information. It's just
That's
like
it.
your clothing size. Your clothing size is truth. The way your body looks is truth. It's not biased, has no opinion, has no emotional attachment to it. It just is a measurement. And it's how we look at it that determines the course of what we're going to do through the course of action based upon an emotional response to it or not. And if you have an emotional response to it, then you haven't neutralized it. And if you haven't neutralized it, it's part of a shadow. So I had to look at that. Very first thing was the darn scale and go, this is truth. This is truth. Stop beating yourself up with the truth. Just accept it as is. This is only a tool. This is just one tool of many.
Right.
And if you don't like that tool, you can find another one, but it's a quick check to be able to see if you're making forward momentum in your choice to change your life as a quick check-in. And that's all that it is. And I know many people, because I'll let you know, I am documenting my journey on Facebook. I'm making it very public. Now it's within private, it's within my friends. I'm not putting it out there for the public, but those who are my friends, I am telling day by day what I'm going through. I'm putting through my shadow work. I'm putting encouragement. I'm doing everything out there publicly because it's my way of holding myself accountable, but inviting people to come in the journey with me and creating an ability for us to share like we're doing right now, the ups and the downs of what this is like to take our health back, to take our power back instead of giving it away, instead of having force upon us, because this is really about sovereignty. This really truly is about sovereignty if you want to look at it in a nutshell, through the triune being that we are and establishing what sovereignty is. And you can't neglect those shadows. So that inner work being part of that is super, super important, because if we don't do it, we're just going to keep looping. We're just going to keep looping.
You said something about truth, and I love how you explain that. Like, truth is, it's not judging, it just is. And so, I relate that to, if you stepped outside and it's raining outside, or it's snowing, or it's sunshine, that weather is what it is. And so there's nothing you can do about what the weather is at that exact moment, but what you can do is prepare how to best go through that moment. So if it's raining, I grab an umbrella. If it's sunshine, I may put, if I burn easy, I may put suntan lotion on, or wear long sleeves. As you said, truth is. And so when someone steps on the scale, look, there's nothing to get upset about. That is what it is. Now, how do we prepare to go through the day with the weather conditions that the truth just told us that there is? And
well, yeah. And this is also how you have to learn to forgive yourself as well, right? Because it is, I'm sorry, no matter who it is, until you've wrestled the shadow, it's going to hit you. It's going to hit you like a ton of bricks, especially if you've been ignoring it. I was ignoring the scale for 6 months. I didn't even want to step on it because I knew the truth. And I knew when I stepped on the scale what number I was going to see. I knew it. And I validated it, right? And so it hits you like a ton of bricks, because part of this is the letting go of stop beating ourselves up. It doesn't do any good to beat yourself up. Damn it, I just had a Twinkie. Well, stop beating yourself up. So you made a choice, you had a Twinkie. I don't know why you would want to have a Twinkie, but you had a Twinkie. It's done. It's over with. What are you going to do in your next moment? Stop beating yourself up. Just reevaluate. And that's exactly what the scale is. It's a reevaluation tool, but allow yourself to feel it. If I feel discomfort, it's good to feel discomfort from time to time because it's a catalyst. Discomfort is a catalyst for us to move forward. And those truth moments are catalysts to say, I'm at a crossroad right now. And then allow yourself to feel through it and forgive yourself. It's like, you know what? I did all of this to me and I still love myself. Right. All of the choices that I make, I still love me, and I forgive me for those choices because I know what it was all about. It was still part of my shadow work that I was dealing with, and I was compensating. And so now I look at it and go, I don't need to compensate anymore because I worked through all of those shadows. So because I worked through all of those shadows that were causing me to do certain things, now I can move forward with the health and wellness.
Yeah. And if you're breathing, if you're watching this program, and Carrie just touched on it, if you're breathing right now, you've been forgiven.
That's
and,
right.
And your next breath is an opportunity for you to deal with what you haven't dealt with. And that's really another way to look at all this. You just haven't dealt with reclaiming your power, reclaiming your pieces of the puzzles that you've given away, and there's no shame in that. I mean, it doesn't matter how you got to that number on the scale. It doesn't matter how you got there, but, but take accountability on how you got there. And then you go, well, you know what? If I drive through the Golden Arches and I order quarter pounders and cheese with large fries and a supersized drink and an apple pie, guess what? I'm probably going to see that reflected on that scale of truth at some
Reaping
point.
and sowing.
And that's just one part of it. What's doing it to our internal, our digestive tract when it's killing the bad bacteria in our guts that's meant to help keep us whole, healed, and without disease. So,
well, and look at this type 3 diabetes now is dementia. They've actually come out and said it, that type 3 diabetes is what leads to dementia and Alzheimer's. And that is from a situation where you have had way too much sugar in your body, way too many carbohydrates, the white stuff, whether it's sugar or flour or pasta and all those things that are the quick sugars that are deteriorating our health. So again, all of these things are just tools to let us know that we need to get to a place, that there's something else for us to uncover within ourselves, because that's really what it is. This journey is about revealing the truth of who we are to ourselves. So we need to use measurements of truth to see where we're at so that we know where we're needing to go. If you don't have a measurement of truth, then you can't be honest with where you are at in the moment. And that's why the shadow needs to be dealt with, because now I can get on the scale and I don't have to have so much of a wrestle with it anymore, because I just remind myself it's just a measurement of truth. It's interesting, the Hebrew word, because I can't be on this show without sharing a Hebrew word, because that's just me. It's my love language. The word for truth in Hebrew is emet. It's Aleph Mem Tav, and it's a beautiful word, because on one side of it you have which is a word for mother, but there's a lot more about it. Mother is like an expression of frequency of establishing truth, or a foundation, or being a vessel of being able to share a way of doing something and being the example of it. It's a frequency. So get over your parents. That's what I'm talking about. So it's a measurement, it's a standard, it's a way of doing things. It's a disciplined nature, and I am modeling the action. I am becoming it. I am that model. And then it has a tav on the end, which means completed. So a completed mother is one who speaks truth, is truth, having no bias, but is living as the example of truth. And so in my moment, when I'm being transparent with you guys and talking about my weight, I will mention out loud, I'm 5'8" and I hit 200 pounds. Okay. That was my freak out moment. And I don't mind sharing it. I can even in future, if you have me back on in a month, I will even share my measurements with you, because all of those are tools of truth. The other way of looking at this word of truth is Aleph with a Mem Tav, separating them out. Mem Tav is a word for death. Aleph is a word that means wholeness.
Yep.
So you're getting yourself healed from the measurement of death by dealing with truth in the moment.
Wow.
So if we don't make these changes, the prognostication is you will not have a long life and have it abundantly. You'll be ill, you'll be full of dis-ease, and we're all seeking comfort. But really, it is getting to that place of looking to the truth, seeing what you need to. Aleph is also a representation of like spirit, breath, spirit, God, however you want to say it, higher self, allowing that to motivate you. Mem Tav, the word mem is the letter mem it means like waters or chaos. And it's right smack dab in the middle of that word, which has to do with your heart. So when we look at the truth is a measurement of the amount of chaos you have within. The amount of chaos that you have within is directly connected to death. So when we look at these measuring tools of truth, this is trying to help establish us to be able to find a way out of where we are in our moment to the place where now we are the fullness of an example of one who has life abundantly, that has been given the TOV, which TOV means completion. It means signature, frequency, the mark of the covenant. It just means you completed something. So when I stand in my truth as a measurement of mother, being an example, because I have become it, and now I've been marked with TOV, which means I'm exempt from judgment. My measure is I've dealt with my chaos on the inside. I allowed all the measurements of truth to tell me where I was in my moment so that I had what I needed to propel myself forward, taking my future, bringing it into my now so that I could be exactly everything that this vessel was created to be a representation of the one who created me while I'm in the flesh. That's why I'm doing it.
Very well said. What's your second? You said that your first is the scale. So what's your second?
What the second shadow that I was dealing with?
Yes.
Well, part of it is, let's connect it. The scale is part of it, but then part of it was dealing with the ego. That was the second one that I really had to deal with.
Okay.
Was the motivation as to why I'm doing it. And this is why I said earlier on that the trouble that we have is that everything that is part of our shadow, part of the chaos, affects our relationships. I mean, this has affected my relationship with my husband. You know, we want to have close intimacy within our relationships. But when we begin judging ourselves harshly and we start looking at ourselves, you know, and we don't like how we look when we're naked in the mirror, do you not think that doesn't translate to your partnership with your spouse or your significant other? Because it most definitely does. I can tell you that in intimate relationship with my husband was much more apparent when I was feeling confident about my body. Here's the ego mind. Than it is when I'm 50 pounds heavier because I don't like how I look, right? So that self-judging on the outside going, if I don't like the way this body looks naked, then why would my husband like it? I'm judging me. Now that's not my husband's position on that at all, but that's what my ego does. And I begin judging that exterior side. And that's why I said I had to face those things to say, this is just not the truth. You know, the truth is a measurement of scale saying, yes, I am 50 pounds overweight. Yes, I am in an extra large woman's size of clothing, which I thought I would never get. And to truth be told, here's the other part of this. And this is the last part of the shadow of the ugly. Next time I'm on, I would like to be able to talk with you guys about some of the things that I found specifically to help with like macros, staggering calories, and all this other kind of stuff. This is kind of the emotional side that I want to share today. But all of this stuff has to be dealt with in the very beginning. The rest of it, when we approach these things, it's overwhelming at the beginning. I used to teach, my husband and I used to teach bringing things in. It's like what your wife was saying about sharing people gradual steps. Because how do you eat an elephant? So basically we're saying, here's keto. This is what you got to do. You got to deal with your macros. You got to deal with your water intake. You got to make sure you got this much fat, protein, carbohydrates. Got to make sure you're exercising. I mean, it's overwhelming for somebody who just rolled off the couch.
Right.
So everything has to be taken in these small little progressive steps that can be built upon. So the first week, like you said, cut out sugar. Just start looking at it. Increase your water. Start tracking write down what you eat.
Right.
People aren't even aware of that. So if we're looking that we're a spiritually awake and aware community, but yet you're not aware of what you're doing in this avatar vessel, what you're doing on a daily basis, then are you truly awake? Or are you just saying that you are? Because it incorporates everything.
Right.
How does your vessel feel? What are you putting in for food? How is your relationships? What's going on in the moment? Are you a fine-tuned Ferrari or a Porsche, or are you an old station wagon that is like 3 oil changes behind and needs a couple new tires? You know, there's a lot with this. There's a lot with this. But I know one thing. I want chaos out of my life. And the truth measurement right now of where I was 14 days ago is I had far too much chaos in my life, and I knew too much for that to be there.
Well, I for one am excited that you're willing to come on here and share this. I think it's going to be very powerful to a lot of people. It's powerful to me.
Thank
Um,
you.
so I'm looking forward to. I'm honored to be able to come alongside you
Thank you.
on this journey, and it's these pearls of wisdoms that you drop to other people, because that's the whole beauty of going through a journey. Going through a journey and not sharing those shortfalls of or that wisdom that's gained doesn't really help anybody. But when we're
Right.
willing to share, and even people want to say the good, the bad, the ugly, we want to share that entire thing, that entire journey. It's just that much more powerful.
Agreed.
Before we let you go, Carrie, Brian, do you have any questions or comments you want to make to Carrie?
There's just been so much said. Along the way, I've been picking up things. There goes that internet unstable thing again.
We can hear you though.
But on my okay, on my personal journey though, I forget exactly how you put it, but you know, when you make that decision at the beginning, like when I became willing to get sober, it opens up like what you're saying. As you go through that, it's like more will be, and you know, as you go, more you see more stuff, and I the more clarity I got, the more I discovered, and that's what brought me to this journey of health
Mhm.
and, and fitness. I I came to that realization one day that my body is a gift, and I was just taking it for granted. I was not grateful for having what I have, and I had to look at that, and um, so that's really what this whole thing for me getting healthy is. It's showing my gratitude for this gift that I've been given. You know,
I'd agree.
so
I
that's
want to leave you with
that's
one
what.
phrase having said that. Toda Rabbah is Hebrew for, like, if I were to say it simply, expanded gratitude. So when we have Toda Rabbah for our food, for our vessel, for the water we drink, what we put in, how we're treating our body, the experiences we have, our shadow work, the tools of truth, we can have expanded gratitude for that. It's putting us back in heart-brain coherence. And that's really what allows us to have wellness, is heart-brain coherence. And a lot of times where we're using food to comfort is because this is not in line. Our mind and our heart aren't connected. They're incoherent. And so just you saying that, that's why the process I said in the very beginning is I had to establish the why. If I didn't have the why and it didn't come from place from my heart, then my head was not going to connect to it, because a lot of that head and heart is what gives us the willpower to sustain. And that's why I've now been 2 weeks, I've been successful. And so I'm glad that you shared that. So that I just want to leave you with that phrase to say Toda Rabbah. And I want to say also Toda Rabbah for making this platform available for me to be very open and transparent, and to be a place for me to hold myself accountable. Because if you have me on here once a month, then, you know, I want to have progress. I want to be able to share that, what it looks like to hold true and fast to something. There's my husband, by the way, as he waves. Hi.
Hi, Ken.
The one that's holding me and helping me to walk this out together. So he's holding my hand through this, and he encourages me when we do our high intensity interval training sessions, which stink and suck, by the way. That's like the hardest way to exercise, but the most brilliant, most efficient. And pairing it with keto, it's awesome. It just sucks doing it.
All right, it's that time of the evening where we get a chance to check in with Mr. Brian Schenker of the MeatTribe channel. And I, first of all, before Brian jumps on here and gives us the meat deals of the week, I just wanted to thank you, Brian, because I have been hitting Giant hard for their ribeyes and Food Lion for the last 2 weeks. And matter of fact, I've been having ribeyes every day.
Nice.
Almost as often as my co-host here having cheeseburgers, but but you can't afford, when you can buy a ribeye for the price of a cheeseburger, you go with a ribeye. So anyway, thank you for finding those deals. I can't wait for you to share what you got for us this week.
Awesome. Glad to hear it. So no ribeyes this week. but
Ooh.
we still got some good stuff. And I'm keeping with the under $10 per pound theme. Food Lion, their deals run through the 22nd. They've got some choice grade boneless New York strip steaks for $7.99 per pound, and some choice grade flank steaks for $8.49 per pound. So those are a couple of deals that are good. I don't typically buy flank steak. I don't think you guys do either, because there's not enough fat in it, right?
I typically don't.
Yeah, but they have their place. People
That's
out
not
there like,
something I.
what's
Just
that,
cook
Brian?
them in butter. Cook them in butter. There you go.
Cook anything in butter, it makes it better, right? Or bacon fat.
Yeah.
Okay, also Kroger, they've got their one deal that's going through the 22nd. They've got some boneless Angus top sirloin steak value packs for $6.99 per pound. And Giant Eagle, their deals run through the 23rd. They've got some certified Angus beef boneless market district chuck roasts or value pack steaks for $4.99 per pound, or prime grade chuck roasts or value pack steaks for $5.99 per pound. And they've also got some, I was wrong. They have some certified Angus beef boneless market district ribeye Delmonico steaks, $12.99 per pound, a little bit over the $10 threshold, but still, if you're, well, I know Jim's not out of them, but if you're out of ribeyes, you need one, and you got a Giant Eagle around, $12.99 per pound for those. And then last store, Harris Teeter, all their deals run through the 22nd as well. They've got some porterhouse and T-bone steak, of course, bone in. They've got a value pack rancher grade at $7.99 per pound, or a small pack at $8.49 per pound, or choice grade porterhouse or T-bone steaks for $8.99 per pound. And also they've got some single packages of the Strauss grass-fed New York strip steaks. They're 10 ounces, and the price per package on those is $9.99.
Still underneath your $10 threshold.
I'm trying to hold to it. I mean, I think people will appreciate that. I like to, to get cheaper meat, good quality, but cheaper cost. You get a better price without sacrificing quality. So I'm on it.
Sounds wonderful. How was your barbecue? I know you cooked you smoked a butt. So how did that turn out?
It came out pretty good. Took a lot long. So it was bigger than the last one that I cooked. It was a little over 9.5 pounds. And I think the first one that I cooked was probably closer to like 5 pounds. So it took a lot longer to cook it. And every time I smoke something, it seems like it's just windy and cold out. Like it just sucks the heat right out of the smoker. It's hard to get consistent lower temperatures when it's like, I was seeing temperature swings. I had it set at 250. I was seeing it as low as 170. So then I bump it up to 300, and it seems like 300 is the sweet spot. If I have it set at 300, it'll hold 300, but below 300, if the wind gusts are there, it just sucks all that heat out and it drops down. So I'm thinking about getting, there's a Maryland barbecue Facebook page. I posed a question on there, what people do. The local barbecue shop around here also said to get a welder's blanket and stick it over top. It's a cheap alternative to some companies have insulated blankets specifically made for your smokers, and of course they're going to be a lot more expensive. You can get a welder's blanket for like $40. So I think that's my next step, to try to keep those temperatures consistent.
Well, that's another great tip for people out there as well. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Looking for those meat deals for next week. And I'm going to enjoy picking up some of those deals you're sharing with us tonight. So thanks again.
Awesome. Sounds good. Take care, everybody. Have a good one.
You too, Brian.
So thank you. Thank you for having me on here. I really, really appreciate it a lot from my heart.
No, thank you, Carrie. It's an honor to have you on here. And we look forward to having you on here once a month and sharing this journey with you. So thank you for letting us be a part of it.
Thank you.
And we will see you next month.
Sounds good.
Namaste.
Namaste.
Well, that was quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah. She's a great guest. It just opens opens up all kinds of stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I could have done this all day. I'm sitting there making notes. I'm taking notes. I got all these other different thoughts that are coming into my head that I want to share. But I'm like, wait a minute, we gotta keep it within the hour. But yeah, amazing. I'm looking forward to be able to take this journey with her and let her share with us and with the people who watch us, to be able to participate in her journey. So I'm very grateful and honored that she's opened herself up. But you're fresh off a cruise. So I think people would like to know, how did everything go? Because I mean, I know one time when you first got to Miami, you played 3 concerts in 24 hours. So how did everything go? How did you enjoy the cruise, and how did you hold up? And how many cheeseburgers was the final count? How many cheeseburgers did you put down?
You know, I wish I would have counted. I took photo. There was a couple meals that I forgot to take the photo, especially my very first meal on the boat, which was cheeseburgers. Um, I forgot to take the photo. So, you know, usually that's why I take the photo, so I can document what I eat.
Right.
So there's a couple missing, but I don't know. It was at least 20, I would say, maybe more.
Well, you topped it off right last night, or I mean, I know we were recorded on Wednesday, so not last night. I said Thursday. I'm talking about Tuesday night.
Yeah.
You had a tomahawk that looked humongous. And so did you devour that whole tomahawk in one sitting, or did you take a doggy bag home? Uh-oh.
Where is it? Can you see this? This is what's left.
The bone. Oh,
Yep.
my. Now, how many ounces? That was a big tomahawk.
35 ounces.
Oh, my God. Wow. And you didn't stop there. You dabbled a little bit into the enemy's corner for a while. Just for a second, you had a bite of chocolate cake, correct? Did I see that?
Oh, Shannon's cake. Yeah, but it was a tiny little. I just tasted it. I wouldn't even consider it a full bite.
You just wanted to get that flavor, just
But
to say.
but I have to be honest. We decided on that dinner when we got back, because our travel day was the actual Valentine's Day.
Right.
So we made the reservation for Tuesday because we figured, well, for one thing, Valentine's Day is always, it's hard to get a reservation. So we did it on the day after. And I mean, we did it whenever we made the reservation, we looked at all these different restaurants and their menus. This one last night had carrot cake. And I said, okay, I'm going to allow myself, it's Valentine's Day, I'm going to have a carrot cake. So last menu, I ordered the carrot cake. And then a little while later, he comes back and he goes, I'm sorry to have to say this, but we're out of carrot cake. And it was almost like
the universe is
the
protecting you from
universe just
yourself.
it's doing for me what I can't do for myself. And he says, do you want something else? And I said, I looked at the menu, and really, there was really nothing else that struck me like carrot cake. And it was like, well, I could order something else, but it's like, why waste this, that special moment on
Right.
just like throwing it away for just some other sugary thing. So I said, nah. I said, I'll just pass. So I got out of that one. But that was my plan. I mean, I hate to admit it, but
No.
I got to say this too about the cruise. Well, you had asked how it went. Those first 2 days were a little grueling with all the concerts. So it was last Tuesday was the pre-party, and then the Wednesday was the first day where I did a Rhino Bucket show in the early afternoon, and then the Kix show at night. That day after, on Thursday, I pretty much took a rest day. I may have come out of the cabin like once to go up to the buffet to get something to eat. And the rest of the time, I just pretty much laid around and watched TV and, yeah, didn't do a whole lot. And then, but the rest of the cruise was great. And I gotta say, I stuck to the plan on the cruise.
Good for you.
I did carnivore the whole time. I mean, there were so many people. It's so funny because people come up to me and ask me questions about my diet, and people that are interested in doing the carnivore, or people that had been carnivore but just let it go on the cruise because it's like vacation
Right.
or whatever. And they'll they'll come up to me and I'll have my cheeseburgers or whatever I have piled on my plate, and they're going, "Oh man," or they'll sit down and they'll have like all that crap stuff, and they go, "Well, I'm gonna get back to it when this is done," and I'm just so glad that I didn't get into that whole thing, you know, and I
Yep.
just stuck with it. And in all even though there wasn't a whole, I mean, the thing was I was kind of busy, so I didn't really get to. I pretty much stuck to the buffet because it's the easiest.
Right.
And they had a couple of those carving stations where there was meat. So and that's the photo I forgot to take. They had really, I don't even know what kind of meat it was, some kind of roast. So tender. I had the guy pile some on there, but I also had cheeseburgers along with that. Um, After that, it didn't seem like they had that, so I had to stick to the cheeseburgers. But I mean, that's
You can't go wrong with cheeseburgers.
no, and I like them. They're pretty juicy. And then I did expand to like 2 meals a day for a few of those days where I would go up for breakfast and then I would go up later sort of to top it off. So I'd have like the eggs and bacon in the morning, and then I'd come back and eat cheeseburgers in the afternoon.
Well, you guys had
So
decent weather this time, other than the first day. I think when it rained the night that you guys did your welcome party, the first day, then it was pretty sun. It was look, some beautiful pictures you guys posted of the sunshine, sunrise or sunset.
well, the pre-party night didn't rain. There was a little bit of a sprinkle after we got off stage, walking back to the trailer. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. It did. It rained one day. What day was that? Oh, it was after we left Cozumel. We were on the way back, so we were out in the water. And one morning I got up really early. They have AA meetings on the boat, so the one morning I got up and went and did the AA meeting. The next morning I went to do it, and for some reason, oh, I know, I went up to the room and the door was closed and there was a note saying private event. So I guess the AA meeting got kicked out. But that morning, I mean, it was really early in the morning. Nobody was around, and it was pouring down rain outside, and the boat was like rocking in the surf. But that was the only rainy day. And then the bummer was the very last day. I was done everything. The day before we came back, I was finally able to. That would have been the day I could have gone and laid in the sun out on
On the
somewhere
deck, right?
if I wanted to, because I didn't want to do that on days when I was working because I didn't want to be on stage with a burnt nose or something. So I was planning on that last day being able to just lay out there, and uh, it was overcast that day, so there was no sun. But I did get that's the day in a proper restaurant.
Well, I know Maria or Joan was sending live feedback when you guys were playing, and I'm telling you, I've never Kix sounded as good as I've ever heard you guys sound in the theater that you guys were playing at, or wherever they had you on. You guys sounded awesome. Even Rhino Bucket, you guys sounded great too. You guys were. It's impressive to see Alice Cooper performing at his age, at this stage. It's just amazing what he's still able to do.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. Yeah, that's what the cool thing about the cruise is. Even though there were several bands that dropped out, along the way before the cruise, that I was disappointed. I wanted to see them, but there's still, out of all those bands that were on there, it's just amazing how. Uh, I mean, this is just from my perspective, and I'm working,
Right.
and I still get to go see those other bands. So it's like it's a cool experience, you know.
Well, I think I may go on the 2023 one, because I mean a lot of those bands I grew up listening to, and so it's awesome to be able to go from on board and go see those 4 different bands in one day. That's just so cool in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this cruise wasn't packed like normally it's sold out. But this time because of the pandemic and all that, not only did bands drop out, but people kind of canceled out too. So, I mean, there was still a lot of people, but not like it has been. So it was almost like like during the pandemic, if anyone has ever had to do any traveling, it was so much better because there weren't all these people. So that's kind of how the cruise was. I mean, it's still a lot of people, but comfortable. You weren't just crowded in.
Well, your Kix shows look like they were packed to capacity. So,
well, that last one, they had us in that inside venue, and it was basically not that like you don't have to pay to get in, so you can't really say sold out, but it was to where they had to stop people from coming in, and they had to wait till somebody would leave before they'd let more people in. It got to that point.
wow. Well, we're at that time of the show where if people have made it this far, Brian, what bit of advice would you give them to help make their week better and their body stronger?
Well, I'm leading by example, but eat your meat.
All right. Well, we'll see everybody next Friday night. Thanks for tuning in. And between now and then, make sure yourself stay safe, stay well, and stay out of the hospital. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys next Friday night.
See ya.
Yeah.